in Excel, I was able to see both a bird's eye view and a very close up view of the same story. And as I said, I can arrange it into scenes. I can arrange it into the types of scenes. I can add in all sorts of notes and additional ideas. And sometimes I will write alternate scenes in adjacent cells.
Welcome to the Wish I'd Known Then podcast, where we focus on how authors found success, looking at strategies that have taken them to the top of the bestseller charts, as well as what they've learned from their mistakes. Because being an indie author is more than knowing the latest marketing trend. It's about being innovative and creative and learning from your mistakes.
Welcome to the Wish I'd Known Then podcast. I'm Sarah Rosette.
And I'm Jamie Albright. And this week on the show we have
Paul Indigo.
Yes, he is lovely. Just lovely. It was such a fun interview. And I just enjoyed talking to him so much, which I did not think I would, because he used Excel to write a book. And if you know me, you know my idea of hell is an Excel spreadsheet. So,
yes.
But it was such a fun interview and so insightful. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's a totally different way to think about writing a book. So that was really fun. And I thought the same thing. I don't see how you could do that, but he made it work. And so he talks about that in detail. And he talks about...
he evidently made it work well because he just won an award for his book, Love Deleted. So congratulations, Paul.
Yeah. So, and then we also talk about seeking validation and embracing our voice and some craft related things like that. So that's coming up. And we should also say that the sponsor this week is Xero, the corporate sponsor, and you can use discount code Wish I'd Known Then 20 and get 20% off. And we'll talk about that more later.
Yeah. And Xero sponsors the show because, and just helps us keep the lights on basically and pay for all the people who help us run it. Adriel and Alexa. And but your sponsorship is just for our time and it lets us know that we really appreciate it. We don't have any new sponsors this week, which is totally okay. But we just appreciate you guys so much who do sponsor us, and we
really
can't
appreciate
thank
it.
you enough.
Yeah, because it makes us realize that that you like the show and that you like the content and that you want us to keep doing it. So we appreciate it and just say thank you to you guys too. And if you want to support the podcast, you can do that. There's a link in the show notes and you'll get access to previous supporter episodes and the Slack group.
That's right.
What have you had going on?
Oh, well, not writing the next great American novel because I'm teaching the next Olympic swimmer. Let's put it that way.
I bet there's a lot of interest right now, right?
More significant anyway. No, I've just been teaching swimming lessons. I have one more week.
You're in your swimming lesson era.
I am in my swimming lesson era and my leathery skin, and I got a great tan, but who knows what effect that's going to have later. But yeah, I mean, I love it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't. I mean, it's easy money to me, but more than that, I just love it. And I think it's so important to teach kids to swim and not just to swim, but like pool safety and stuff or water safety. But we're going into 6 weeks of doing this, and Mama isn't built for that. I am tired. The other day, yesterday, I guess, I had a makeup lesson at 10:30 and I woke up at 10:17. I can't even tell you the last time I slept past 9 o'clock, and I can barely remember how many times I've slept past 9 o'clock. I am not a sleeper inner. And man,
you're just probably exhausted. Yeah.
I'm wasted. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to tell, when you do this next year, you have to tell yourself, future Jamie will not be happy with past Jamie. Didn't we talk about that last week?
Yes, y'all know. Present Jamie really, really hates past Jamie. Her britches are too big for her, what she can accomplish. Her abilities. But
4 weeks.
So I am looking forward to getting
4
home.
weeks.
Yes.
Next year.
net 4 weeks and only so many hours in a day.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, so
yeah, I'm looking
you'll be
forward to
going
getting
home.
home, looking forward to get back in a routine. Before I came, I was in a routine of writing, and
Yeah, me too. My
it
June
felt
has
really
also
good.
been like
And
crazy.
yeah, and I kept it up for a couple of weeks, a week, 2
Mhm.
weeks, I think 2 weeks. But then, just it's a lot, and I'm still fighting a cold.
Yeah.
So on top of that, but other than that, I'm great, y'all. Just great. I'm great. Yeah. How about you? What's going on?
Well, June has also been just insane. We've had so much travel, so much going on. And so I
Mhm.
have no routine either. I am
Yeah.
glad I got my draft finished. So I feel like that, at least I got that done before the end of
Yes.
June. So basically all I've done is like I have decision fatigue because I'm deciding how I'm going to release my new series. I'm
Yes.
going to do it on my store first, and then I'm going to release it on retailers. But all those like dates have to be decided, and
Yes.
I'm trying to fit it in a way that it makes sense,
Yep.
so that like I'm not like, oh no, I'm not home. I'm scheduled to get a box of books.
Right.
So I don't know, just that just has worn me out. But I finally decided on how I'm going to do it. And I know that that's partly because this is the first time I've done it this way. And
Mhm.
so, like, once I figure this out, I'll have a routine for this and I'll be
Yeah.
fine. So,
Yeah.
basically, decision fatigue. I did get my hardcover of the
Oh
book,
gosh, it
and
looks amazing. Oh,
so
that's so
it's got
great.
the color in papers from Book Vault,
Yes.
and it looks really good. And then it's got
Yeah.
color inside.
Yes.
So, and images,
Ah,
sketches, and stuff. So this time I did learn, I waited until I had everything, all the items that needed to go in there, like the maps and the sketches.
uh-huh, uh-huh.
And then I did one copy, which I'm so proud of myself because the last time
Yes.
I ordered a copy and I was like, oh no, I didn't include whatever. And then I have to order another approved
Yeah, yeah,
copy to
yeah,
make
yeah.
sure it's good. So,
Sarah, that
so
looks
yay.
amazing. I love that cover.
I do too.
Y'all, it's
Yeah.
amazing. I wish I
I'll
could
post
describe
it.
it.
I will post. It's going to go live in my store. I think the week after this comes out. So I'll post a link in the group when
Oh, great.
it's live, and it's got pictures at the inside and everything too.
Excellent.
So I've been doing all that, taking
Yeah.
pictures and
Yeah.
uploading, and so
Yeah.
all that's done though, and I will be able to get back to writing soon. I'm hoping.
Good.
Fingers
Good,
crossed.
good, good.
So, and then on the news front, I was just going to talk about, I had a link that came through my email. It's Book Funnel. There's a blog post about how they have experimented using Book Funnel as a landing page for ads instead of a
Really?
store. And Damon asked Katie Cross to help out with that. And she, used her books and they used a Book Funnel website or landing page. And it said it converted really well, better than like sending them somewhere else. So,
Really?
so I'll put that link in the show notes in case
Mm.
anyone's interested in checking it out.
Yeah, I haven't read anything either.
You
Another
feel a
thing, if
little
I owe you anything or an email, just know
it's a
week after,
lot.
yeah, next week, week after this one coming up,
Yeah.
I'm all over it.
Yeah. So,
Well,
and
good.
then should we mention Inkers Con, the
Yes, we
digital conference
should. We
again?
should
Yeah.
absolutely mention Inkor Con. I actually sat in on a partial, I didn't get to stay for the whole thing, but I'm going to go back and rewatch it. A webinar that Alessandra did
Oh,
basically about 5 things you can do to kind of know where you're at in your author career and how to take another
oh,
step and
nice.
everything. It was really great. And she was using some of the examples from the conference, or she used a few
Hmm.
of the things that people said and
Hmm.
gave them credit and everything. And so, yeah, I mean, again, I was just reminded what a great conference. I mean, just
Yeah.
such great information. It's just
Hmm.
so applicable, and it's really wherever you're at
Yeah. There's
that you can
different
find something.
levels or I
Yeah.
guess tracks.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are going to do an Inkers Con recap, but after things calm down a little bit.
Mhm.
So we will do an episode just talking about like Inkers Con takeaways, but you
Mm.
can get the digital conference. You can sign up for that. We have affiliate links in the show notes and codes to get the discount. So those will be in the show notes as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and
And
then we don't,
yeah,
I was
and
going to say,
we have,
go
go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead.
I was going to say, we don't have any fan mail or text messages to read this week, But I listened to another podcast and they had asked this question, and I thought it'd be a fun question to ask.
Oh, yeah.
Just because it's just people have different preferences.
Yeah.
So I want to know what speed you listen to podcasts on.
Yes.
So what speed do you listen on?
Regular speed. I
Oh,
do
do
not
you?
like to. Yes, I do. I
Oh my
like to hear
gosh.
people's voices. There's one person, he doesn't have a podcast, but if I listen to any of his stuff, I do speed it up. But
But
no, I
overall,
like to hear people's voices. I like the experience.
so that's so funny because I listen at 1.25 and I use the Overcast app and it has a smart speed that takes out the gaps. And so it's
Really?
actually sometimes faster than 1.25. Some it shows you sometimes it'll be like 1.27, 1.28.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, I get bored if and that's so weird because our personalities are so different because you're such an activator
Yeah.
and I'm not. But like when I'm listening to stuff, I want it to, but
Yeah.
I don't ever listen to fiction type. Mine's all nonfiction.
Yeah,
So
mine
I
is
could,
too. Mine is too.
okay,
I mean,
interesting.
I've listened to some fiction, but mostly it's nonfiction. But I
Okay.
still want to hear the.
Yeah, I'm shocked. I'm surprised. So I think it'll be interesting. So send us a
Yeah.
text message and tell us how fast you listen to your
Yeah.
podcast on, or not. Maybe you listen on negative to
Exactly.
go slower.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. So the corporate sponsor for this episode is
Mhm.
Xero, accounting
Mhm.
software made for small businesses like indie authors. And with Xero, you have everything in one place. You can store documents, capture expenses and receipts via email, scan files from your mobile, and more. Via Xero's robust integrations, you can connect Xero to your bank to easily sync financial information as well as have access to more than 1,000 apps via its app store. And there are different plans to suit your business, and all pricing plans cover the accounting essentials with room to grow. And I've used it. I really love it. It imports transactions automatically, makes it super easy. They have an onboarding call, which was really helpful. And I just got an email from them saying, hey, do you have any more questions? Do you want to set up a follow-up call?
Oh, wow. That's amazing to be able to talk to real people.
Yeah, in this day and age, customer service is almost non-existent in most places. So that's really nice.
Exactly.
So yeah. So you can use discount code Wish I'd Known Then 20 and get 20% off the Xero subscription for 3 months. And the link will be in the show notes.
Awesome. So with all that said, we should get on to Paul because it's a really fun interview.
Yeah. So here is Paul talking about spreadsheets. Today, we are really excited to talk with Paul Indigo. Hi, Paul. How are you?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you.
Well, it's lovely to have you. And we already knew you were from Britain, but as soon as you started talking, I was like, he ain't from down the street.
No. Well, the same goes for you guys as well. My goodness, lovely accents though. Wonderful.
Yes. We love to have a good British accent on.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So let me read your bio.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and we'll get going. All right. Paul is a British author who adores page turners. He's composed music for television as well as worked with behind-the-scenes television voiceover artists. He wrote and directed an award-winning short psychological thriller under a name he can't disclose and has a huge love for high-concept stories, hence his debut novel.
Love that.
That's wonderful. I love that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You put that together very succinctly.
Well, tell us how you got into writing.
Oh my goodness. Well, think of me as a 6-year-old child, a little boy sitting in class and our teacher talking about creative writing. She probably didn't use that phrase, but we all had to write a story about anything we wanted to. And it just so happened to be nearly Halloween. So I decided to write a little story about a witch who lived in a cage and who could do very evil things. And I remember one particular part where I wrote about her fingers falling off one by one, and the whole class gasped at that. They did. They gasped at that. And I thought, oh, there's something to this writing, Mark. And ever since then, I've just loved writing. So I've always created something, whether it's writing, whether it's music, whether it's songs, I just love words.
That's
the way that
amazing. Yeah.
Mm.
Did your Did you get a note home from school? We're concerned about Paul. He writes.
Oh, probably. That would not surprise me at all. Oh my goodness me, the amount of mischief I got up to as a child. Don't want to know.
That's good. Good background for books.
Yes.
Lots of good material there.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, what is your definition of success?
Yeah, well, that's a really tricky one because my initial definition, like most people, most authors, when they first think about it, yes, I want to be a big bestseller. I want to make millions. I want to do this, that, and the other. And when I came to actually writing my debut novel, and I started getting feedback from readers about it, about how they enjoyed the story and it moved them, and this and the other, I realized it was really about connecting with people, and about getting that beautiful relationship between you and the reader and hearing about it. So for me, the real definition is my readers. It's knowing that there are people who love what I do, and it makes me love it all the more because they love it. So that was it for me.
I love that.
Thank you. Well, I think it's all. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, please.
I was just going to say, it is a passion. I think writing is a passion. It's something that you can't just do just for the sake of any other endeavor other than for the love of it. And so the love has to come first. That's the authenticity behind it. And if you have that, then you're already on a streak. And then anything else that happens after that is a bonus.
Yeah. I think to stay with it and to continue doing it, you do have to love it. Because it's hard,
Absolutely. It is hard.
Even for people who write fast, or that's my assumption because I don't. But my assumption is even for people who write fast and stuff, is that it's still hard to put words on a page every day or whatever your schedule is. And so, having a passion for it certainly does.
Having
help.
a passion really helps. And I'm like you, Jamie. I take my time writing. For me, it's about the quality of time rather than the quality of words rather than rushing. I wish I could write fast. I've tried it. I've tried it so many times. I always come out with
all.
Some people can. And I think, how do you do that? How do you
They can write fast and it's good work. I mean, that's the thing. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. That's the thing. That's getting that beautiful balance between speed and quality. Oh, I wish.
I know. Me too.
I wish.
Me too. Well, what do you wish you'd known about writing in craft when you started?
Right. Well, writing itself is really about the vulnerability of yourself. It's about an authenticity, and really it's about revealing yourself. And I don't think initially when I started writing, I thought of it in those terms. I just thought about it in terms of shocking people or surprising people, which are good things in their own right.
Right.
But you have to have an authenticity to your writing. Otherwise, I don't think it transmits to the reader. They can tell, I think. And it goes with any kind of love of any endeavor. There has to be a passion behind it. There has to be an authenticity behind it in order to make it true. Because then its readers say, oh my goodness, yes, about something, within the story, whether it's a plot, whether it's an observation about something.
Right.
You say, yeah. So for me, yes, it's the authenticity and the vulnerability.
Right.
I think that's very true, because no matter what you're writing, some of yourself comes through. And I remember when my first book came out, I was talking to another author and I said, I'm really nervous and nervous that people will like it, but it's just a strange feeling when you put something that personal out in the world, even if it's completely fictional. And the other author said, yes, it's a bit like somebody's been reading your diary, isn't it? And I was like, yes, it is. It's so nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
But there is that where you're showing yourself and your authenticity that pulls readers in.
That's a really good way of putting it. I mean, I remember Dorothy L. Sayers saying that she doesn't like writing, she likes having written. And for a while I thought, hold on, let me think about that. Like having written, not writing. And then I realized why I think that's true for me as well. And it's because every single day when you're faced with a page or a computer screen, you don't know that your writing is going to be any good. The chances are, yes, of course it will be, because you've learned your craft and you've learned how to put words onto a page.
Right.
But there's still that uncertainty at the very beginning of your writing day. And that's the bit that's scary. And so if you get over that hurdle, I've got lots of tips for getting over hurdles at the beginning of writing. But if you get over that, then usually it's okay. And you kind of think, yeah, it was great. It's fine now. I'm okay. I'm in my groove.
Yeah.
That initial first step is tough. Those first few words. Yeah.
It is, yes, because you are faced with, well, not necessarily a blank page, but you are faced with the knowledge, well, the lack of knowledge of how you know that day is going to transpire. So, yeah.
Well, what about marketing? What do you wish you had known about marketing?
Oh, I've worked in marketing for much of my life. I worked in television. In fact, I worked for the Discovery Channel, was one of the last channels I've been working at, which is well known. Well, it came from the States, well known in the States, but it's also well known over in this country as well. And marketing was all about selling the sizzle. We had lots of programs that we needed to promote, and so we'd find ways of promoting them, but promoting them authentically and accurately. And if we couldn't do that, we got lots of complaints about it. So it's really, marketing is really about the consistency of your voice, not only in writing, but in your marketing as well. You've got to be able to transmit the same vein of truth through from the title of the book cover, the log line, the blurb, the actual text. It's all got to be consistent. And if it's not, then you're going to disappoint readers somewhere down the line. So yes, that's what I learned.
Sooner rather than later, you're going to disappoint readers. Yeah.
Yes, of course. That will always happen, because after your first book comes the second, and then the third, and then the fourth. And somewhere along the line, you're going to start deviating from any one perfect reader, because that's the way of life.
Yeah, it is.
And you just have to take it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Do you have anything?
I was just going to say, I like that term, the vein of truth that's got to run through. It's got to be your book and your marketing. I like that image that conjures up. It's like it all should match. And if it doesn't match, that's where you get that dissonance. That's where some readers will be like, you promised me this, but you gave me this, and that's not what I want.
Exactly. Well, in both of your cases, your book covers, your titles, your blurbs matches the quality of your work as well. You're doing the period mysteries and doing the kind of sassy romance stories. They both have that grain of truth running through them, and it's consistent. So yeah. You've already nailed it.
Well, thanks. But I think it's interesting. I think it scares people, a vein of truth and being vulnerable, because people are like, I don't want to put myself out there. And I tell people all the time, then create an avatar for your writer self that you are comfortable sharing. So it's not you're sharing this. You and the avatar may very well, or alternate personality or whatever, may very well share a lot of the same characteristics that you share, but it's not you. It's someone else in a way. And I think that helps sometimes.
Yes, that's like a shield, isn't it? It's saying that's the writer, that's the writer avatar.
Right.
I'm me behind it, but I can hide in the shadows a little bit, because we're all shy to some degree.
Some of us are.
Well, yes, that's true. That's true.
Well, what assumptions did you make at the beginning of your writing career, and looking back, did they turn out to be right or wrong?
Yes, that's a really, really good question. I think for me, it was wanting official validation, which you don't necessarily get as an indie author, certainly not at the beginning of your career.
No.
You do if you're accepted by a publisher already. Like I know, Sarah, you were originally a traditionally published author. Yeah. And so you had that kind of validation right there from the start. But for me, it troubled me for a bit because it made me worry whether my writing was any good. And it actually makes it to some degree harder to be an indie author because you're kind of running off your own steam. I know you've got other people around who can help you, editors and
Right.
professional people who you can engage. But it was that troubled me. And then once I got published and I started getting feedback from readers, I got lovely emails, really, really gorgeous emails. In fact, my very first email was from a lovely lady in the States, funnily enough, even though it was published in the UK as well. And she said something along the lines, "You have been blessed with a fabulous talent." And that was the first lines of her email. And I thought, wow.
Yeah.
It didn't make my head too big.
Yeah.
But
we're easy. We can ride that wave for a long time.
Oh.
Like that one sentence can carry us for a while. Yeah.
Absolutely. And to get it as my very first email was wonderful. And I thought, I don't care about having professional validation, from an official review, perhaps in the newspaper or whatever. If I get it from readers, because after all, they're the final arbiters. They're the ones that are putting the money out, putting the money where their mouth is. So, yes, I realized that it wasn't so important to me anymore as long as I satisfy the readers.
Right. Right. Very good. Very good.
Wonderful. That's that connection, like you were talking about earlier, between us and the reader. That's the success. Yeah.
Yes. Somebody called it time travel. But because of course it's like an engaging of brains. They're literally getting into your head through your stories, and so it's a very, very personal thing.
Yeah. So that makes it all the better when you get an email like that.
Yeah.
So
my God, yes. Cool water on a hot day.
That's right.
What's the most important lesson you've learned?
Oh, yes. Another really good question. Trust your voice. There are so many books out there and so much advice that tell you things, about how you should write it. Don't use adverbs. Don't use, don't show, don't tell, and things like that. And I remember hearing Lee Child in an interview saying he tells all the time. He doesn't care. And I thought, well, yes, he's comfortable with his voice. He found a voice that worked with him, and it was a truthful voice again for him. So I think, yes, the rules aren't really rules; they're guidelines, and it's all about balance. So if it just turns out that you like to narrate more than you like to show, narrate more than you show because you probably have a talent for it. So it's natural. So trust the voice that you have. And if you don't trust it, or if your writing is stilted or doesn't work very well, it's probably because you're not being authentic with that voice. You're not really releasing it. You're trying to follow rules. You're trying to, saying, okay, the protagonist has to do this at this point and has to do that at that point. And you're trying to force it in. You're trying to channel your talent into a structure, when in fact a structure came from creativity, not the other way around. So, it was born of studying creative writing. That's how structure came into being in the first place. So it's a guideline. It's a guideline.
Yeah, it's a guideline. I love that. Well, what's the biggest change you've had to make in your thinking?
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes. It's about the success of a book. I've came to realize, and in fact, I've heard this said as well, that back catalogue is more important than any one book success. It's really the backbone of your career. It's your oeuvre. It's what makes you. And yes, it's great if you can have a lottery win with one book that really takes off, but that's kind of that is a lottery win. Whereas the back catalogue is your insurance.
Yeah.
It's what builds your career, and it's what gives you competence and confidence to continue doing that. So for me, that's what I came to realize. Yes, it was about building a history of your writing more than anything else.
Yeah, and that's true. Like when you doubt yourself and you begin to wonder, am I doing this? Am I good? Is this good? then you can look back at what you've written and say, okay, people love these books. I have this catalog, and it can give you confidence going forward.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So yes, aim for the big hitter if you can get it. I think it's a Native American saying, something like, "It is better to aim for the moon and to hit an eagle than to aim for an eagle and to hit the ground."
Oh, yeah.
And I think, well, yeah, try for the big hitter.
Yeah.
Don't expect it. Just try for it each time. And
Exactly.
it doesn't matter if you don't get it, because you've
Yeah.
tried.
You've tried, yeah.
You've
Yeah.
tried.
Yeah. What's the saying? Have high but realistic goals is another way to put it. Like
Yeah.
you're aiming
Well,
high. You go ahead and aim for success.
Yes.
And since you're aiming high, hopefully you're still
Yes.
coming out better in the long run. Yeah.
Well, I think you do. I think most writers do get better as they progress anyway, and they find themselves as they get better. And that's partly the reason that they do get better, because of that. So, yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. Yeah. But what, I suppose it just depends on what you mean by realistic, because realistic can mean different things to different people.
things to different people.
It's kind of like the definition of success. Yeah.
Yes,
It's
well,
all very different for different people.
absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're in Vegas, for instance, you want that big win, don't you?
Yes. We take the big win in Vegas. That's right.
That's a different realistic group.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, if you were starting over today, would you do anything differently?
No, I wouldn't. I love making mistakes. I know that sounds like a really...
we love people like that, because we're not like that. Yeah.
It's great to make mistakes. Well, I mean, it doesn't feel great at the time, but it's because of the hindsight. It's because of what you learn, and because of, you have to go through it yourself in order to learn what not to do. Because even if you're told what not to do, or what you should do, you don't really take it on board on an intuitive level. So you have to experience it for yourself, and it's all about experiences. So I would say that's the thing. Make as many mistakes as you want, because you're learning, and do them big if you can. I mean, it's great to learn from other people's mistakes as well. I follow people like David Goran, who's my messiah when it comes to the kind of information that you can get about writing and about marketing. But yeah, make mistakes and do them with pride.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about, so you emailed us and you said that you had written a book using your Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Now, I can't imagine anything worse, but I want to know how you did it. And I'm sure we have listeners who want to know how you did it, because I cannot even imagine that. So can you tell us about it? Tell us the process.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's a problem. No, I am weird. I'm a weird person. Okay. If I go to a restaurant, I'll often have the dessert before I have the main meal.
Yeah.
If I have a main meal at all.
Yeah.
I'll do things weirdly. I was experimenting with lots of different writing software. Obviously, you can get a lot of them online now. And even, Google Docs and Word for Windows and Scrivener and various other ones that are specifically author orientated. There was always a reason I couldn't get on with them. There was always something I thought, oh, I wish it would do this, or I wish it would do that. And it just so happened that I was playing around in Excel, playing around with some scene titles that I was also working on in Word for Windows. And it kind of had happened naturally. I started writing the prose in a cell, in a column, and I thought, hold on, well, first of all, how do I return? Because, of course, you can't paragraph.
Right, exactly.
So I had to learn that it was alt return in order to paragraph in Excel. So that's one little thing I learned. But the other little thing I learned about Excel is that it has a quirk, or at least the Excel I run it, because I'm running really, really ancient software. I'm running it from 97 from a CD, believe it or not. So it's really old. And the quirk is that the more you type in one cell, the slower the text gets to come out after a while. And what it allowed me to do was then jump to the next cell and then continue writing in it, but it would change the direction of the scene, and it would often increase the pacing. And so when I read it back, it felt pacier for me. Yeah, absolutely. And it really
Isn't that
worked for me.
something?
That was the first thing, but I learned so many other things, organizational things. For instance, I might write a scene and then write the next scene diagonally in the next column. And you think, well, why? What's the purpose of doing that? I didn't know at the time. I just did it randomly. It just happened. But then I thought, well, hold on, I can start labeling what kind of scenes these are. For instance, is it a detective scene with lots of question and answer? Is it an action scene where somebody's being chased by someone? Is it a debating and mulling over scene? And so on. And I started to see a tapestry of how a novel was constructed by doing that. I could leave myself lots of notes, and you can basically arrange the novel in any way you like and add anything in any order you like as well. And so it allowed me to become, I don't believe in writer's block. I call it plotter's block, because basically it's not the writing that's the problem.
Yeah, it's the plotting.
It's the plot. It's what happens next. It
Exactly.
allows, exactly. Now I know a lot of software allows you to write non-linearly, like Scrivener. You can rearrange things and so on. And so forth. But in Excel, I was able to see both a bird's eye view and a very close-up view of the same story. And as I said, I can arrange it into scenes. I can arrange it into the types of scenes. I can add in all sorts of notes and additional ideas. And sometimes I will write alternate scenes in adjacent cells. And then the story goes in a slightly different direction. I thought, oh, and then I do a kind of synthetic synthesis between the two, so you get a best of the average of things. You know what I mean? And so it was all sorts of things like that, and I've been discovering things the whole time, and it's all a complete discovery for me. But yes, it allowed me to write my entire novel and in Excel and organize it in the way that I wanted to. And the other thing I started doing is I started to type in numerically, because of course Excel is basically for numbers, it's for calculations. Type in what I thought the sentiment of a scene was, for instance, from reading it as a human being, as opposed to digital sentiment, or AI sentiment. And so I was able to start to see shapes. And so I could see little pulses of things going well, things going not so well. And you get a really organic feel for it. And the other thing I did is that I started breaking down other novels that I really admired. I'm doing the same thing, putting them, not writing the prose in that case, just writing the scenes in them. And then I started splitting them up into the bakes, into this, what kind of scenes they were. And I started to see a pattern. I thought, hello, I'm onto something here.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
I've never heard of anybody doing this, but I think it's fascinating.
It is fascinating. Yeah.
It's a kind of like, because a novel is an emotional journey more than anything else. It might be factual, it might have other things in it, but readers read it because they want to be moved in some way, whether they want to be frightened or romanced or intrigued by a mystery. That's at the core of it. And so you start to see not only genre tropes, but genre patterns that start to occur within it as well. And you also start to see the sort of DNA of how certain authors write. You see what scenes they tend to like writing most and what scenes they're really good at. Most writers, unless you're hugely talented, like someone like, Ernest Hemingway, are good at something that readers absolutely love, but they might not be good at something else. Like, for instance, Agatha Christie wasn't very good at characterization, but she was fantastic at mystery and plotting. So you lock onto that, and that's what readers locked onto. And I found that the case with many writers, and me included, we tend to be good at one particular thing that makes us stand out as that kind of writer. And to actually have it plotting out in a novel, other authors' works in Excel, allowed me to see it from a bird's eye point of view. So I could see the composite of it. Yeah.
Right. I do like the thing that you said about writing, having two scenes that you wrote, one a little differently and then merging. Like, for my brain, that I could see that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, what's good is that
but I'd have to get to that point, and I don't know that I could.
I think many people would be frustrated by Excel. I think that's or any spreadsheet. I think they think,
but I think we have listeners that would go, That's so
Oh, yeah.
interesting. I'm going to try that. Yeah. So,
Well, I think it's definitely worth trying. But,
yes,
we're all different.
absolutely.
Yeah, we're all different writers. We all have our own routines.
Mhm.
And I don't think there are two writers alike that will write in precisely the same way.
Yeah.
So,
No,
it's like
not at all.
fingerprints. Yeah.
So the way you describe it makes me think of musical notes, like a musical score. And you have a music
Yes.
background, right?
Yes, I do.
So
Yes.
I'm wondering if maybe that's like being able to see the story is helpful for you.
Do you know, I hadn't even thought about that. I think you're absolutely right. Because with music nowadays, and music production, in fact, we're in my studio right now. I don't know if you can see my keyboards.
Yes.
I've got my mixing desk all over in the corner and everything. It's become non-linear. Like film editing has become non-linear. It used to be a linear thing. You cut one bit of film together after another, and you did the same with music. You built up the tracks one by, and now it's all non-linear. You can move things about so easily. And with writing, that's what it's doing. It's allowing me to move it about. So I like the musical analogy. I hadn't thought of that. That's brilliant. That's a really interesting insight.
Well, I think a novel is really hard because it's so long and there's so much of it. And if you can, I can see why people might like this idea, or something like Plotter, where they can see everything all at once. It gives you a bigger picture.
Yeah,
it helps a great deal. But the thing is that you can make it going any direction you want. You don't have to rely on it and an existing structure that another software engineer has created.
Yes.
Even though there is flexibility within it, there's always going to be some sort of constraint. But this way allows total freedom. I remember, we always hear the rule of a story is that it should have a beginning, middle, and end. And I twisted that around. I thought it should have a teaser, a build, and a twist.
Like it.
I do too. And you can tell you write mystery sorts of books.
Well, yes, yeah. I write kind of psychological.
Yeah.
That's but with mystery in it. Yes, there's a lot of mystery. There's a lot of cliffhangers and things like that going on there. Yes.
Any witch's fingers falling off.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
See that callback? I just did that.
I like that. Very nice. That's very poetic.
I'm working on a talk about writing humor, so I had to bring that back. Yeah.
Well, there's humor rife all the way through your writing, so I mean, it comes out in your characters. It really does. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, since you've mentioned your music, you have you work in a lot of different areas, it sounds like. So are there any, like you marketing and music, all these different things, how have those come together and kind of crossed over in your writing? What experiences do you pull for different things?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. Music is about emotion as well as novel writing.
Right.
It's about emotion. And in fact, even when it came to when I was working on documentaries, programs and things, it all comes down to communicating emotion. That's the crux of the matter. And all we're doing with writing novels or writing music is engineering it into some sort of a structure that's organic, or it should be organic. I don't think it should ever be forced into a structure. It should allow itself to find itself.
Right.
But it will always exist. It will always be a structure. And it will always be the right structure for that story because it's organic. I personally believe that anyway. There might be people who disagree with me, but that's what I tend to think. But so yes, it's music and writing are very, very closely interlinked. And in fact, they have the same kind of phrasing. You get pauses, you get commas, you get full stops, but within music itself. And you get heightened bits, you get bits that are faster, you get bits that are slower, just like in writing, in writing a story. They have all the same emotional journeys. It's just a different art form of expression.
Right.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, and I love it.
Oh, thank you.
I really think we could be best friends. I'm just except for the fact that you may be way more optimistic than I am. I might drag you down.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Well, what do you think the best thing you've done to set yourself up for success has been, Paul?
Well, that has been this Excel spreadsheet, funnily enough. Oh dear. Because the other thing about it is, of course, you can use it to organize your life as well, which is what I've started doing too. So that has been it. I think when I first started deciding that I was going to publish this novel, and it's funnily enough, it's only when I put the story into Excel that it started to come together. When I was writing it in Word, it was a sprawling mess. And there were bits that didn't make sense to me. And I was going off at all sorts of tangents, and Excel allowed me to do that. But when I had done it, I was at the stage then I started to think, okay, I now need to think like an indie author in terms of having a website. They all tell you that, have a website, have a picture if you're brave enough to have your picture, so you can show the world that you're a human being. Have a consistent voice with your marketing as well. Now, funnily enough, I actually wrote the blurb and got the title and the log line for the story, the elevator pitch, as they call it, while I was writing the novel. And so it became a homogenized whole thing. And I was looking into finding a book cover that would match all that. And I actually did look for some book cover designers. There were a couple that did some really nice ones, but it wasn't what I liked. It wasn't what I wanted. And I had this image in my head. And so I went on to Midjourney, which is the AI computer thing. And I've played around with it for about a month. Boy, was I persistent. And I kept saying, no, it's not right. This isn't the right way to do it. Okay. And so I just write a new descriptor. I'd learn about all these other things. And eventually I came up with a book cover that I thought, oh, that's it. That's the book cover. And so I started then playing around with more text in order to get it precisely the way that I wanted. And as a result of that, so many readers have come back to me and said, I read your book because of your book cover, or you're in my top 3 book covers of the year. Well, some people put my book in the top 3 books of the year for them as well, which was very flattering. But so I thought, yes, I am getting that consistent message. Now, that's not to say that I would recommend anybody else necessarily do that. I was just really stubborn in my case. And I had this very specific idea about it. But yes, so for me, whatever the original question was, and I've waffled off at some multiple tangents.
It is totally fine. It was about the best thing you've done. For success. Your spreadsheet.
The spreadsheet was the best thing because it allowed me to be organized in not only with my writing, but with everything else as well, including the marketing.
That's great. Tell everybody what the name of your book is, because I know there may be some people that want to read it so that they can see, how you did it.
That would be lovely. It's called Love Deleted.
And I do love the cover. It's really great.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really great.
And basically, I'm going to give the elevator pitch.
Please.
So it's a contemporary love story about a heartbroken wife who surgically deletes her love for her husband with devastating consequences.
Oh my goodness!
It's a love story. It's a woman's fiction. It's kind of spreads several genres, which I know they tell you not to do. But I go against the grain in so many other areas. I might as well go against the grain with this as well, And it kind of worked. It's worked because it has found a following. So many readers have said, I've never read a book like this. And that has been the one most consistent message I found in review after review. I haven't read a book like this ever. And that for me is, wow, that's great. And the thing is, it's actually based on real science. It's based on a genuine surgery called optogenetics, which was invented in 2005 by a Lasker Award-winning a neuroscientist and bioengineer called Carl Disseroth. He's an American neuroscientist, and he invented it in 2005. And basically the ability to program your brain. Wow. And to change the way that you think. So, for instance, it could be used in treating PTSD because it can take you out of that. Anyway, so the book is kind of an advanced science, but it's based on that. It's based on real science. Yeah,
that's amazing. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here. Tell everyone where they can find out more about your books and you and all of that good stuff.
Oh, well, thank you very much. paulindigo.com. Nice and simple.
It is.
paulindigo.com. And I learned that from Joanna Penn. She said, try not to use initials if you can avoid it. It's better to use your full name because if otherwise people might mishear what, an S, they might hear something else, for instance. Yes, the website, and it's in all the usual places. I've published wide. So I've got an audiobook, ebook, as well as the paperback book.
Did you do your own audio or did you hire a narrator?
I hired a narrator. I tried. I was rubbish. That was the one thing I couldn't do. I listened to myself and I thought, no way.
Yeah.
It is very hard. It's very hard.
It's a genuine talent. But I have worked with voiceover artists before, so I've worked with them with scripts before. So I knew that I probably wouldn't be able to do it, and it was the case. Yes.
Yeah. Very good. Very good.
It's always good to know when to outsource.
That's right.
Absolutely. Yes. It's getting the balance right. It's getting the balance right, getting the money right, trying to, I saved up for an audiobook, for instance, and I believe that you're not spending money as an author, you're investing money in yourself.
Right.
That's what you're doing. And so even though the audiobook cost me a lot of money, it will be an audiobook forever. It will exist for the rest of my life. So hopefully at some point, it will start to generate real income along with other books that I've written, because I'm working on my second book now. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Very
That's
good.
terrific.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Thanks for being here. We appreciate it so much.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. And it's been a lovely pleasure to meet you both as well, because I love the way that you guys interview people, because it always sounds as though you're sitting on a sofa and fireplace is going, you've got a glass of wine in your hand and you're just nattering away. And I'm thinking, oh, this sounds wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Well, we try. We try. Yeah.
We try. Well, we will have all those links in the show notes, and those will be at wishidknownforwriters.com. And if you want to support the podcast, you can go to that same link /support. Thanks to Adriel Wiggins for doing the admin. And thanks to Alexa Larberg for doing the producing. We'll see everybody next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Thanks for joining us today. And remember our sponsor, Xero Accounting Software. Use discount code WishI'dKnownThen20 and get 20% off of Xero subscription services for 3 months. Thanks for listening. Keep writing, and we'll talk to you guys next week.